I found out my parents hosted a family Christmas dinner without telling me. Mum smiled and said, "You live too far, honey." So I stopped trying to be the good daughter. No calls, no gifts, no money. Weeks later, their credit cards were locked, the power bill was overdue, and Dad's shop got shut down. I cancelled everything. The notification came at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I was in bed, half asleep, scrolling through my phone in that mindless way you do when your brain won't quite let you rest. The blue light illuminated my face in the darkness of my apartment. My too expensive, carefully furnished apartment that I'd worked myself to exhaustion to afford. Outside, the city hummed with its perpetual insomnia. Car horns, distant sirens, the mechanical wheeze of the heating system in the building next door. The Instagram post loaded slowly, pixel by pixel. The way trauma often reveals itself, in pieces, giving you just enough time to brace for impact, but never quite enough to look away. It was a Christmas dinner photo. Not just any Christmas dinner. The Christmas dinner. The one with my mother's famous honey-glazed ham centered on the table like an edible altar. The one with the hand-embroidered tablecloth my grandmother made before she died. The tablecloth I was supposed to inherit. The one with the good china, the silver candlesticks. The crystal wine glasses that caught the light and threw it back like tiny glittering accusations. My sister Emma was there, her husband Todd beside her. Both of them grinning with the satisfied smugness of people who'd gotten exactly what they wanted. My brother Marcus sat at the far end, his arm around his girlfriend Claire. When had she become a fixture at family dinners? My uncle Robert, my aunt Diane, cousins I hadn't seen in years, but who apparently warranted an invitation. And there, at the head of the table, were my parents. My father, stern-faced as always, holding a carving knife like a scepter of judgment. My mother, radiant in the red sweater I'd bought her last year, smiling that smile that had once made me feel safe, and now made my stomach turn over. The caption read, "Blessed to have all our family together this Christmas. Family first, grateful #Christmas magic. All our family." I read it 3 times. 4. 5. Each time that the words rearranged themselves into the same brutal truth. I hadn't been invited to my own family's Christmas dinner. I zoomed in on the photo, searching for some sign that I'd misunderstood. Maybe I'd been there. Maybe I was just out of frame, in the kitchen, grabbing more wine, laughing at something my father said. Maybe the camera had simply missed me in that one perfect, horrible moment. But the longer I looked, the more complete my absence became. There was my usual seat, empty. No place setting where I should have been. The gap in the family portrait wasn't an accident or an oversight. It was deliberate. Architectural. A space carved out specifically to exclude me. My hands started shaking. I clicked on the comments. 23 of them. Each one a small knife finding its mark. Beautiful, a beautiful famila. This is what it's all about. Merry Christmas. Your home always looks so warm and welcoming. And then, from my cousin Rachel, "Missed you this year, Sarah. Hope you're doing well in the big city." Missed you. As if I'd had somewhere else to be. As if I'd chosen not to come. I sat up in bed, the covers falling away, the cold air of my apartment suddenly feeling less like winter, and more like the temperature of space. Vast, empty, indifferent. I hadn't been invited. No call, no text, no apologetic email explaining that plans had changed, or that they'd thought I was too busy, or that the dinner was small and intimate this year. Nothing. Just silence. And then this photo, posted for everyone to see. A public declaration of my irrelevance. The worst part? I'd spent Christmas alone in my apartment, eating takeout Thai food and watching Netflix, telling myself it was fine, that I was independent, that I didn't need the chaos of family holidays. I'd even felt a little superior about it. Look at me. So mature, so unbothered, so evolved past the need for traditional family gatherings. Meanwhile, 300 miles away, they had all gathered without me. I called my mother. It rang 4 times before she picked up, her voice thick with sleep. "Sarah? Honey? It's almost midnight. Is everything okay?" "I saw the photo," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, flat, distant, like I was narrating someone else's life. There was a pause. Not the pause of confusion, but the pause of someone deciding how to play their hand. "Oh," she said finally. "The Christmas photo. Why wasn't I invited?" Another pause. I could hear my father in the background, his voice a low rumble. "Who is it? What's wrong?" "It's Sarah," my mother said, her hand partially covering the receiver. Then to me. "Honey, you live so far away. We didn't think you'd want to make the trip." "You didn't think I'd want to make the trip?" I repeated slowly. "To Christmas dinner. With my family." "Well, you're always so busy with work, and the drive is so long, and we just thought—" "You didn't ask me." "What?" "You didn't ask me if I wanted to come. You just decided I didn't." "Sarah, don't be dramatic. You know you're always welcome." "Then why wasn't I invited?" My voice rose despite my best efforts to keep it level. Why did everyone else get an invitation except me? Why am I seeing this on Instagram instead of hearing about it from you? "We tried to call you," she said, and I could hear the defensive edge creeping into her voice. "You're always so hard to reach." "When? When did you try to call me?" Silence. "Mum, when did you try to call me about Christmas dinner?" "I don't remember exactly. A few weeks ago, maybe. You know how busy things get during the holidays." I checked my call log. The last time my mother had called me was October the 17th, and that had been to ask if I could increase the amount I was sending for my father's shop expenses. "You're lying," I said quietly. "Excuse me?" "You're lying. You didn't try to call me, you just didn't invite me." "Sarah Mackenzie, I will not be spoken to this way." "Why?" I asked. The question came out raw, stripped of all the protective layers I usually wrapped around my vulnerability. "Why didn't you want me there?" My mother sighed, and in that sigh, I heard 28 years of accumulated disappointments, resentments, and unspoken truths. "You live too far away, honey," she said finally, her voice softening into something that might have been mistaken for kindness if you weren't listening carefully. "You've built this whole life in the city, and that's wonderful, really. But you're not part of things here anymore. It just didn't make sense to include you when you're so disconnected." Disconnected. The word hung in the air between us like a ghost. "I send you money every month. I said. I paid for Dad's new equipment for the shop. I covered Emma's medical bills when she had that procedure. I sent Marcus money for his car repairs. I'm paying half of your mortgage because Dad's business has been struggling. How is that disconnected? That's different, my mother said. That's just helping out. That's what families do. But apparently families also have Christmas dinner without telling each other. You're being unfair. I'm being unfair. I laughed, and it came out bitter and broken. I'm sitting here in my apartment alone, finding out from social media that my entire family had Christmas without me, and I'm the one being unfair. If you're going to take that tone, good night, Mom. I hung up before she could respond. The phone immediately started ringing again. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Again. Declined. After the fifth attempt, I turned off my phone entirely. Then I sat in the darkness of my apartment, listening to the city breathe around me, and felt something inside me quietly, irrevocably break. Not break like shattering, explosive and dramatic. Break like ice cracking on a frozen lake. A sound you feel more than hear. A fundamental shift in the structure of things. A warning that what once held solid is now dangerous to trust. I had been the good daughter. I'd been the good daughter when I took out student loans so my parents wouldn't have to pay for college while they were supporting my siblings. I'd been the good daughter when I sent money home every month, even when it meant eating ramen for 2 weeks straight. I'd been the good daughter when I skipped vacations and worked overtime and stayed in on weekends to save money so I could help whenever they needed it. I'd been so good. And somehow, I'd become disposable. I looked around my apartment, really looked at it, maybe for the first time in months. The furniture I'd bought second-hand and refinished myself because I couldn't afford new. The walls I'd painted at 2 a.m. after 12-hour shifts. The small, careful life I'd built while hemorrhaging money back home. Back to a family that apparently saw me as an ATM with an inconvenient voice. Something settled in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something colder and more certain. I picked up my laptop. Outside, it started to snow. The flakes fell silently, covering the city in a soft white blanket, making everything quiet, making everything clean. I opened my email and started typing. The spreadsheet took 3 hours to build. I sat at my small kitchen table, the one I'd found at a garage sale and lovingly restored. And I compiled every single financial transaction I'd made on behalf of my family for the past 7 years. And every wire transfer, every Venmo payment, every check I'd mailed home with a cheerful note about how things were going well, how I was happy to help. The numbers glowed on my screen in neat, unforgiving columns. New hydraulic lift. $8,500. Diagnostic equipment. $3,200. Inventory costs, various. $12,400 lease payments, 18 months. $27,000. Emergency repairs after flood, $6,800. Insurance premium assistance, $9,600 roof repair, $7,500 new furnace, $4,200 medical bills, various. $5,600 car payment assistance, $8,400 property tax. Shortfall, $3,800 medical procedure, $4,500. Wedding costs, $2,000. Furniture for new house, 1,500. Emergency car repairs. 1,800 car down payment. 3,000 security deposit for apartment. 2,200 moving costs. $800 loan never repaid. 2,500 monthly assistance, averaging $800 month for 84 months. $7,200 holiday gifts. $8,900 all emergency fund contributions. $5,400 utilities assistance. $3,200 $189,500. I stared at the number. It stared back, unblinking and absolute. That was the cost of being the good daughter. That was the price of love, apparently. Or what I'd mistaken for love. That was 7 years of my life, converted into currency and transferred home, where it had disappeared into the black hole of family need without generating even the basic gratitude of a Christmas dinner invitation. I'd sent them nearly $200,000, and they'd thanked me by pretending I didn't exist. The laugh that came out of me was harsh and unfamiliar. It echoed in my small apartment, bouncing off the walls I'd painted myself, dissipating into the silence. I added another tab to the spreadsheet. Automatic payments. Everything I'd set up to run on autopilot because I was so damn responsible, so dedicated to making sure my family was taken care of. Dad's shop lease, $1,500 a month, paid by my credit card. Dad's shop insurance, $800 a month, paid by my bank account. Parents' mortgage supplemental payment, $1,200 a month, paid by direct transfer to parents' utility accounts. $300, $500 a month, paid by my credit card. Dad's cell phone, $85 a month, paid by my credit card. Mum's cell phone, $80 a month, paid by my credit card. Netflix account, family plan, $9.99 a month, paid by my credit card. Spotify account, family plan, $59 a month, paid by my credit card. Amazon Prime, they used exclusively, $49 a month, paid by my credit card. I'd built a financial infrastructure around their lives. I was the invisible support system, the safety net they never saw because it was always just there, always functioning, as reliable and unremarked upon as gravity. The snow continued to fall outside. The city was getting quieter, the usual cacophony muffled by the accumulating white. I opened my banking app. My cursor hovered over the Manage Automatic Payments button. One click and I could cancel everything. One click and the money would stop flowing. One click and they'd finally notice I existed. Not because of what I gave, but because of what I took away. But I didn't click, not yet. Instead, I opened a new document and started writing. Dear Mum and Dad, I hope this letter finds you well. I wanted to take a moment to reflect on our relationship and the role I've played in our family over the past several years. No, too formal, too cold. I deleted it and started again. Mum and Dad, after seeing the Christmas photo, I've done a lot of thinking. I've realized that I've been operating under a fundamental misunderstanding about my place in this family. Closer, but still not right. Too much room for them to misinterpret, to deflect, to make this about my feelings rather than their actions. I deleted it. The cursor blinked at me, patient and accusing. Outside, a siren wailed past, and then faded into the distance, leaving only the soft silence of falling snow. I thought about my mother's voice on the phone. You live too far away, honey. I thought about the empty place at the table, I thought about 7 years of wire transfers and emergency payments and monthly assistance. I thought about eating ramen so I could send them money. I thought about the vacation I'd never taken, the clothes I didn't buy, the life I'd postponed again and again because family came first. Family first. Except when it came to Christmas dinner. Then apparently I came last. Or not at all. I closed the document without writing anything. Some statements don't need words. Some messages are clearer in the language of consequences. I clicked into my bank account and navigated to the automatic payments screen. The list appeared, orderly and efficient. All the ways I'd been keeping them afloat without them ever having to ask. Without them ever having to acknowledge what it cost me. My finger hovered over the cancel button next to my father's shop lease payment. I thought about him at the head of the table, carving knife in hand, presiding over a family dinner I hadn't been invited to. I thought about him calling me 3 months ago, his voice tight with stress, asking if I could help with the lease because business was slow. I thought about how I'd said yes immediately, how I'd set up the automatic payment without hesitation, how I'd told him not to worry about paying me back. I clicked cancel. The confirmation dialogue appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring payment? This action cannot be undone. I clicked confirm. A small message appeared. Automatic payment cancelled. Future payments will not be processed. Something loosened in my chest. Not relief exactly. Something darker and more complicated. Something that felt like freedom and grief tangled together. Inseparable. I moved to the next payment. And the next. And the next. Cancel. Confirm. Cancel. Confirm. Cancel. Confirm. Each click was a small act of self-preservation. Each confirmation was a tiny revolution. When I finished, the automatic payments list was empty, clean. The financial umbilical cord I'd maintained for 7 years, severed in less than 10 minutes. I sat back and looked at what I'd done. The apartment was very quiet. The snow was still falling. Somewhere in the building, someone was playing music, something classical, strings that rose and fell like breathing. I picked up my phone and turned it back on. Immediately, notifications flooded the screen. 17 missed calls from my mother, 4 from my father, text messages from Emma and Marcus. I ignored all of them and opened my contacts. There was a number there I'd saved 2 years ago, when my father had been complaining about his credit card company. I'd helped him navigate a dispute, had spent hours on the phone with customer service on his behalf, had gotten the charges reversed. He'd given me the account information in case it happened again, in case he needed help. I'd saved it, like I saved everything, just in case I could be useful. Now, I pulled up the credit card company's website and logged into his account using the credentials he'd given me. The dashboard appeared, showing his current balance, recent transactions, payment history. I navigated to the account settings and found the option to lock the card. My hand paused over the mouse. This was different from cancelling automatic payments. This was active sabotage. This was crossing a line from withdrawal to intervention. I thought about the photo again, about my empty seat, about my mother's voice. You're not part of things here anymore. I clicked Lock Card and selected Report Stolen from the drop-down menu. The system asked me to confirm. I confirmed. Card successfully locked. A replacement card will be mailed within 5 to 7 business days. I did the same thing with my mother's credit card, and then with the supplemental card they'd gotten for Emma when she was going through a hard time and needed help with groceries. A card I'd been paying off for 18 months. Lock. Report stolen. Confirm. 3 cards. Locked. 3 small bombs. Armed and ticking. The text messages kept coming. I opened the thread with Emma. Mom said you were really rude to her on the phone. What's going on with you? She's really upset. You know how sensitive she is. Can you just call her and apologize? This is so dramatic. I typed a response and then deleted it. Typed another and deleted that too. Finally, I just sent. Saw the Christmas photo? Looked like a nice dinner. Her response came within seconds. Oh. Yeah, it was really last minute. We didn't think you could make it. You didn't ask. I typed back. 3 dots appeared, indicating she was typing. They disappeared. Appeared again. Disappeared. Finally, you were always so busy with work. We didn't want to bother you. It's interesting, I wrote, how not bothering me looks exactly the same as excluding me. The 3 dots appeared and stayed for a long time. Then, you're being really sensitive about this. I laughed out loud. The sound was sharp and strange in the quiet apartment. Am I? I typed. Or am I just finally noticing what's been happening all along? What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. Instead, I went back to my banking app and pulled up the transaction history. I took screenshots of every payment I'd made to or for Emma over the past 3 years. Medical bills, furniture, car repairs, the emergency funds that seemed to happen every few months. I sent them to her, one after another, a cascade of evidence, a paper trail of my supposed sensitivity. Then I typed, "This is what being sensitive looks like. Apparently, being excluded from family holidays while paying for everyone's expenses is just normal." The 3 dots didn't appear this time. The red receipt showed she'd seen the messages, but no response came. I opened the thread with Marcus. He'd sent only one message. "Mum's freaking out. What did you do? What did I do?" I typed back. "I found out I'm not actually part of this family. I'm just the bank. That's not fair. We appreciate everything you do. Do you?" I sent the same screenshots to him, because appreciation usually involves at least remembering to invite someone to Christmas dinner. "Come on, Sarah, don't be like this. It was just a misunderstanding." "No," I typed. "A misunderstanding is an accident. This was a choice. You all chose to have Christmas without me and then post about it online. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a statement. You're overreacting." I looked at those 2 words for a long time. You're overreacting. The universal dismissal. The get out of accountability free card. The way to make someone else's pain about their emotional instability rather than your actual actions. I typed, maybe. Or maybe I'm finally reacting appropriately to 7 years of being taken for granted. I didn't wait for his response. Instead, I opened the group chat, the family thread that was mostly my parents asking for things and me responding that I'd take care of it. I scrolled back through the history. Months of requests, months of me saying yes, months of gratitude that evaporated as soon as the next need arose. The last message in the thread was from my father 3 weeks ago. "Shop computer died. Need new one ASAP. Can you help? My response? How much? Maybe 800. Sent. Should hit your account tomorrow. Thanks, honey. You're a lifesaver. And that was it. No follow-up. No update on whether the computer worked. No thank you after the initial transaction. Just silence until the next need arose. I scrolled further back. The pattern was consistent. Request, acknowledgement, gratitude that lasted exactly one message. Silence. Meanwhile, the other conversations in the thread, the ones I wasn't part of, were full of casual chatter. Plans for dinners, jokes about TV shows, updates about Marcus's new girlfriend or Emma's work drama. Real family communication, the kind that happened naturally when people actually liked each other, when connection wasn't transactional. I'd somehow become the customer service representative of my own family. Available when needed, invisible when not. I started typing in the group chat. Hi everyone, I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. Mine was quiet. Take out Thai food and Netflix. I spent the evening thinking about how grateful I am for the lessons this family has taught me. I've learned that love is supposed to be conditional. That connection is earned through financial contribution. That family is something you're part of only as long as you're useful. These are valuable lessons, and I want to thank you for teaching them to me so thoroughly. In the spirit of these lessons, I wanted to let you know that I've made some changes to my financial commitments. Effective immediately, I've cancelled all automatic payments to or on behalf of family members. I've also locked the credit cards I've been paying off. I'm sure you understand. After all, I live so far away now, and I'm so disconnected from family matters, it just doesn't make sense for me to be involved in these things anymore. I'm taking your advice about distance to heart. I'm going to focus on my life here in the city, and you can all focus on your lives there. It seems like that's what everyone wants anyway. I wish you all the best, truly. May you find the Christmas magic you were looking for. Don't worry about reaching out. You've made it clear where I stand. And I respect that. I won't be a burden anymore. Love always, Sarah. My finger hovered over the send button. This was it. The point of no return. Once I sent this, there would be no taking it back. No smoothing it over, no pretending everything was fine. The snow was still falling outside. The city was buried in white, transformed into something clean and new. I pressed send. The message appeared in the thread with a small whoosh sound, like a paper airplane being launched into uncertain air. Then I turned off my phone completely, removed the battery for good measure, and set it on the counter. The silence that followed was total. No notifications, no buzzing, no demands. Just the sound of my own breathing and the distant hum of the city settling into winter. I looked around my apartment, this small, expensive, carefully built space that I'd sacrificed so much for. The second-hand furniture I'd refinished. The walls I'd painted. The life I'd been living only partially. One foot always extended back toward a family that had somehow learned to walk without me. For the first time in 7 years, I felt the full weight of my presence in my own life. It was terrifying. It was also, I was starting to realize, necessary. I poured myself a glass of wine. Expensive wine, the kind I never bought because I was always sending money home, and sat by the window, watching the snowfall. Somewhere, 300 miles away, my phone was exploding with messages I'd never read. My family was discovering that the invisible support system had vanished. The autopilot payments were failing. The credit cards were locked. The safety net was gone. And here I was, in my small apartment, drinking expensive wine, feeling simultaneously guilty and freer gayer than I'd felt in years. The paradox sat in my chest like a living thing. I'd done something cruel, and I'd also done something necessary. I'd hurt people I loved, and I'd also stopped letting them hurt me. I'd severed connections that had sustained them, and I'd also cut loose anchors that had been drowning me. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, I sat in the silence and waited for whatever came next. I left my phone off for 3 days. 3 days of silence that felt like both prison and sanctuary. 3 days of working from home, avoiding my landline, ignoring the persistent knock on my door that I was pretty sure was the neighbor, but could have been something else. Someone else. A reckoning I wasn't ready to face. On the morning of the 4th day, I finally reassembled my phone and turned it on. The device vibrated so violently it nearly fell off the counter. Notifications flooded the screen like a digital tsunami. 127 missed calls, 89 text messages, 47 voicemails, 23 Facebook messages, 15 emails, and 8 Instagram DMs. My family had, it seemed, finally noticed I existed. I made coffee, expensive coffee, the good kind from the local roaster, and sat down to read the messages in chronological order. Mum, 11:43 a.m. Sarah, I don't understand why you're so upset. Please call me back. We need to talk about this rationally. Mum, 1:22 p.m. Your father's cop payment was declined. Can you please fix this? The lease company is calling. Dad, 2:15 p.m. Sarah, my credit card isn't working. I'm at the hardware store. Can you call the company? Emma, 2:47 p.m. Mum is crying. You need to call her. Whatever's going on, you need to fix it. Mum, 3:33 p.m. The mortgage payment was returned. Sarah, this isn't funny. These are serious bills. Marcus, 4:18 p.m. What the hell is wrong with you? Dad's card got declined at the grocery store. This is embarrassing. Dad, 5:02 p.m. Sarah Mackenzie, you need to call us immediately. This has gone far enough. Mum, 6:45 p.m. I'm trying to pay the electric bill and my card won't work. Did you do something to our accounts? Mum, 8:30 p.m. Please, just call us. We can work this out. I don't understand what we did wrong. Emma, 9:15 p.m. You're being really selfish right now. Mum and Dad need you. Mum, 7:02 a.m. Sarah, the power company called. If we don't pay the bill by end of business today, they're going to shut off our electricity. Dad, 8:04 a.m. I had to cancel my business insurance because the payment wouldn't go through. If something happens at the shop, we're not covered. Is this what you want? Marcus, 10:33 a.m. Seriously, what is your problem? You're going to let Mom and Dad lose their power because your feelings are hurt. Emma, 11:29 a.m. This is so typical of you. You make everything about you. Mom didn't mean anything by not inviting you. Get over it. Mum, 1:55 p.m. The landlord came by the shop today. He says Dad hasn't paid rent in 2 months. I don't understand. You've been paying that. Where did the money go? Unknown number. 3:17 p.m. Hi, Sarah. This is Patricia from Riverside Credit Union. Your parents have asked me to reach out about some returned payments on their mortgage. Can you give me a call at your earliest convenience? Dad, 4:42 p.m. The shop is going to close if I can't make rent. 10 years of work gone. This is on you. Mom, 7:08 p.m. How can you do this to us? We're your parents. We raised you. We sacrificed everything for you, Co. Emma, 8:33 p.m. Mum had a panic attack today. The doctor had to give her something to calm down. I hope you're happy. Mum, 6:15 a.m. Please. I'm begging you. Just tell us what we did wrong and we'll fix it. Don't punish us like this. Dad, 9:02 a.m. The landlord served me with an eviction notice for the shop. 3 days to pay or he's locking me out. This business is our livelihood, Sarah. Marcus, 10:47 a.m. I told them you were having some kind of breakdown. That's the only explanation for this psychotic behavior. Emma, 12:33 p.m. Todd says you're probably having a mental health crisis. You should see someone. This isn't normal. Aunt Diane, 2:18 p.m. Hi, honey. Your mum called me crying. I don't know what's going on between you all, but I'm sure it can be worked out. Family is everything. Don't throw it away over pride. Uncle Robert, 3:45 p.m. Sarah, I've known you since you were born. This isn't like you. Whatever your parents did, I'm sure they didn't mean it. Work it out. Life's too short for grudges. Mum, 5:29 p.m. The power got shut off today. We're sitting in the dark. Your father can barely look at me. He says this is my fault for posting that photo. I didn't mean to hurt you, baby. Please. Just talk to me. Dad, 7:53 p.m. You've made your point. You're angry. I get it. Now let's fix this before something permanent happens. Emma, 9:41 p.m. You know what? Maybe you don't deserve to be part of this family. You're vindictive and cruel. Mum and Dad are better off without you. Marcus, 10:22 p.m. Emma's right. We were fine before you started playing savior with your money. Keep it. We don't need you. I read through all of them twice, my coffee growing cold in my hands. The progression was textbook. Denial, anger, bargaining, more anger, attempts to blame me, attempts to guilt me, finally settling into a toxic mixture of accusation and abandonment. Not once did anyone actually apologize for the Christmas dinner. Not once did anyone acknowledge that excluding me was wrong. The closest anyone came was my mother's, "I didn't mean to hurt you," which wasn't an apology so much as a denial of intent. As if hurting me accidentally was somehow better than hurting me on purpose. I opened the voicemails and listened to them on speaker while I made breakfast. Real breakfast, with eggs and toast and fresh fruit. The kind of meal I usually skipped because I was always running late, always rushing, always anxious about the next obligation. My mother's voice trembling. "Sarah, please, I don't understand what's happening. Your father is beside himself. The shop might close. Our power is off." I'm sitting here in the cold, wondering where I went wrong as a mother. Please, baby, just talk to me. My father's voice, tight with suppressed rage. I've spent 10 years building that business. 10 years of 80-hour weeks and missed dinners and sacrifice. And you're going to let it die because of what? A dinner invitation? Grow up, Sarah. The world doesn't revolve around you. Emma's voice, sharp and accusing. Mom is a mess. Dad is shutting down. Marcus and I are trying to help, but we don't have the kind of money you do. You know that. This is cruel, Sarah. You're being cruel to people who love you. I don't even know who you are anymore. Marcus's voice, attempting reason. Look, I get it. You felt left out. That sucks. But this is extreme. You're hurting everyone to make a point. Is that really who you want to be? The person who destroys her family over a misunderstanding? Call me back. Let's figure this out. And then, at the end, my mother's voice again. But different this time. Smaller. Broken. I looked at the spreadsheet you sent Emma. All those numbers. I didn't realize. I knew you helped, but seeing it all written out like that. Sarah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Not just about Christmas, about all of it. Please, give me a chance to make this right. I played that last message 3 times. The apology sat in my chest like a stone. Heavy, solid, impossible to digest. Because here was the thing. She was only sorry because the money stopped. She was only sorry because the consequences had arrived. If I'd just continued being the good daughter, if I'd just swallowed my hurt and kept sending checks, would she have ever looked at those numbers and felt remorse? Would any of them? I finished my breakfast in silence, rinsed my dishes, and sat down at my laptop. The question now was simple. What did I want? Did I want reconciliation? Did I want revenge? Did I want to go back to how things were, armed now with the knowledge of what I was worth to them? Did I want to cut them off entirely and build a new life from scratch? Did I want them to hurt the way I'd been hurt? Or did I want them to understand why I'd been hurt in the first place? The distinction felt important. Revenge is making someone feel your pain. Justice is making someone understand it. I opened a new document and started writing. Dear Mum, Dad, Emma, and Marcus, I've received your messages. All the 127 calls, 89 texts, and countless voicemails. The volume of your response is interesting, given that I didn't hear from any of you on Christmas Day. Funny how silence becomes noise when money stops flowing. Let me be very clear about something. This is not about the Christmas dinner. Or rather, it's not just about the Christmas dinner. That was simply the moment when a pattern became impossible to ignore. For 7 years, I have been the family ATM. Not the family member, the ATM. The difference is crucial. An ATM doesn't get invited to Christmas dinner. It doesn't need phone calls or birthday cards or acknowledgement. It just needs to keep dispensing money when you punch in the right code, which in this case was any variation of emergency, really need help, or you're the only one who can. I've compiled a spreadsheet. You've all seen portions of it. The total is $189,500. That's how much I've given this family over the past 7 years. That's roughly $27,000 a year, $2,250 a month, $75 a day. Every single day for 7 years, I've given you the equivalent of $75. While eating ramen, while skipping vacations, while wearing clothes from thrift stores and living in an apartment I could barely afford because I was supporting not one household, but 2. And what did I get in return? I got to be forgotten. I got to be too far away. I got to be too busy. I got to be the person you didn't think to include, because I'm not part of things here anymore. But here's what I realized while sitting in the dark on Christmas night. I was never part of things, I was just useful. And the moment I stopped being useful, I'd become invisible. The Christmas dinner wasn't the cause of this. It was the evidence. Evidence that you all gathered and planned and cooked and laughed and took photos. And not one of you thought, "Where's Sarah?" Or if you did think it, you all collectively decided that my absence was acceptable, even preferable. Do you know what that feels like? To realize that the people you'd sacrifice anything for wouldn't sacrifice even the minor awkwardness of having one more person at dinner. Now about the money. I've cancelled all automatic payments because I no longer consent to funding a family I'm not actually part of. I've locked the credit cards I was paying off because they're in your names, funded by my account, and I'm done being financially responsible for purchases I don't make and expenses I don't incur. Dad, your shop insurance and lease were always your responsibilities. I took them over when you were struggling, with the understanding that this was temporary help during a hard time. It's been 18 months. If the business can't sustain itself without my monthly support, then perhaps it's time to make some difficult decisions about its viability. Mum, the mortgage is in your and Dad's names. I started helping with payments during the 2020 crisis, again with the understanding that this was temporary. It's been nearly 5 years. At some point, temporary help becomes permanent dependence. And I am not interested in being anyone's permanent solution to problems they should be solving themselves. Emma, I paid your medical bills and furniture costs and car repairs because you're my sister and I love you. But love is supposed to be reciprocal. I have never asked you for financial help, but I have asked for emotional support, for time, for connection. I've gotten silence, or dismissal, or advice to stop being so sensitive. Marcus, same to you. I've covered your expenses when you needed it, because that's what family does. But family also remembers to invite each other to Christmas dinner. You're all upset because the money stopped. I understand. You're all scrambling to cover bills you thought were taken care of. I understand that too. But I need you to understand something. I'm not upset because the money stopped. I am upset because I finally realized that in this family, I'm only valued for what I provide, not for who I am. That realization is permanent. No amount of apology or explanation can unteach me that lesson. So here's what happens now. I will not be resuming any automatic payments. If you want help with something, you need to ask directly, explain why, and accept that I might say no. My money is no longer available by default. I will not be attending any family events unless I am explicitly, personally invited, not through a group text, not through someone else relaying information, but directly asked if I want to come and given enough notice to actually plan for it. I will not be available for emergency financial bailouts unless I've been treated like family during the non-emergency times. You don't get to ignore me for months and then call when you need something. These are my boundaries. They are not negotiable. They are not punitive. They are simply the natural consequence of how you've chosen to treat me. If you want a relationship with me, we can build one. But it will be built on mutual respect and actual connection, not on financial transactions and obligation. If you don't want that kind of relationship, that's okay too. I'll be sad, but I'll survive. I've already been surviving on the margins of this family for years. At least now I'll be doing it honestly, without pretending everything is fine. Mum, you said in your voicemail that you're sorry. I believe you. But I need you to understand what you're sorry for. You're not just sorry for posting the photo or forgetting to invite me. You're sorry for years of taking me for granted, for treating my money as your right, for loving what I could give you more than who I actually am. That's what needs to change. Not just the Christmas invitations, everything. I love you all. I've always loved you. But I'm done being loved conditionally. And I'm done loving people who can't see me past my bank account. If you want to reach me, you can. But I won't be answering phone calls that start with requests for money. I won't be responding to guilt trips or accusations or diagnoses of my mental health. I'll be here when you're ready to treat me like a daughter, a sister, a person. Not an ATM with feelings that sometimes need to be managed. Until then, take care of yourselves, figure out your finances, fix your business model, budget appropriately. All the things I've been doing while also trying to survive on what was left. You'll be fine. You were fine before I started helping, and you'll be fine again. You're capable people. You just got used to being capable people with a safety net you never had to acknowledge. With love and boundaries, Sarah, I read it over 3 times, editing for tone, clarifying points, removing anything that felt too cruel or too soft. Then I copied it into an email and sent it to everyone. The message went out with a soft whoosh, and I closed my laptop. Outside, the snow had melted. The city was grey and slushy, caught in that awkward phase between winter's beauty and winter's tedium. I picked up my phone and blocked everyone's numbers except for emergency contacts. Not out of spite, not out of anger. Out of necessity. Because I knew what would come next. They would try to argue. They would try to guilt. They would try to negotiate my boundaries, to explain why my feelings were wrong, to convince me that I was being unreasonable. And I couldn't afford to hear it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I'd spent 7 years being convinced that their needs were more important than my feelings. I'd spent 7 years being told I was too sensitive, too demanding, too far away to matter. I was done being convinced of my own insignificance. So I blocked the numbers, turned off social media notifications, and sat in my apartment. My expensive, carefully furnished, too small apartment that I'd sacrificed everything to afford. And for the first time in 7 years, I was just here. Just present. Not 1 foot in the city and 1 foot back home, but fully, completely here. It felt strange, foreign, like wearing clothes that fit properly after years of wearing hand-me-downs 2 sizes too big. I looked around my apartment and started making a list. Things I couldn't afford when I was sending $250 a month home. A bed frame, I'd been sleeping on a mattress on the floor. A proper desk, I'd been using a folding table. Decent cookware, everything was second-hand and mismatched. Professional clothes, I'd been rotating the same 3 outfits. Healthcare, I'd been skipping annual checkups to save money. Therapy, couldn't afford it. A savings account. What savings? Retirement contributions, laughable. A social life. Everything cost money I didn't have. Hobbies, too expensive. Travel, impossible. Peace of mind, priceless and absent. I looked at that list for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and started making a different list. Things I can afford now. Everything. I laughed. It came out sharp and slightly unhinged, but it was genuine. For the first time in 7 years, I could afford my own life. The thought was so foreign, it felt like a discovery, as if I'd been living in black and white and someone had just handed me the color wheel. I spent the rest of the day in a strange, euphoric daze. I ordered furniture online, real furniture, from actual stores, not Facebook Marketplace. I scheduled a doctor's appointment. I looked up therapists in my area. I opened a high-yield savings account and set up automatic transfers. I realized, building a life that was mine. Not borrowed, not compromised, not shared with people 300 miles away who'd forgotten I existed. Mine. The word felt revolutionary. That night, I sat by my window and watched the city lights flicker on as evening fell. Somewhere out there, my family was dealing with their financial crisis. Somewhere out there, my mother was sitting in the dark. Or maybe they'd scraped together enough to get the power back on. Somewhere out there, my father was figuring out how to save his business without my monthly checks. And here I was, in my apartment, feeling a complex mixture of guilt and liberation that I suspected would never fully resolve into one or the other. I'd hurt them. That was true. They'd hurt me first. That was also true. Both truths would have to exist together, unreconciled, a permanent state of uncomfortable duality. I could live with that. I'd been living with far worse for far longer. Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaos. Inside, I sat in the quiet and felt, for the first time in years, like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The first week was the hardest. Not because I doubted myself. The righteous fury was still fresh enough to insulate me from regret. But because silence is its own kind of presence. Every time I didn't get a notification, every time my phone didn't ring, every time I checked my email and found nothing from them, the absence felt deliberate. Weighted. A negative space in the shape of family. I threw myself into work. I volunteered for the projects everyone else avoided. I stayed late at the office, not because I had to, but because coming home to my quiet apartment meant confronting what I'd done. The furniture I'd ordered started arriving. A bed frame, a desk, a set of dishes that actually matched. And each delivery felt like a small act of defiance. Look what I can have when I'm not funding someone else's life. But the guilt gnawed at me in quiet moments. When I was falling asleep in my new bed, with its proper frame and its expensive mattress, I'd think about my parents in their house, with its overdue electric bill. When I was making coffee in the morning, using my new French press, I'd think about my father at his shop, trying to figure out how to pay rent without my monthly transfer. I'd done the right thing. I knew I'd done the right thing. So why did the right thing feel so much like cruelty? On the 10th day, I got an email from my father. Not to my personal email. I'd blocked all that. But to my work email, which he must have found on my LinkedIn profile. The subject line read, "From your father." I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. "Sarah, I'm writing to you here because you've blocked all other channels. I respect that you need space, but I'm hoping you'll at least read this. The shop is closing. The eviction went through on Friday. I spent yesterday clearing out 10 years of work, selling what equipment I could, storing the rest in your uncle's garage. The business that I built from nothing, that I poured my life into, is gone. I want you to know that I don't blame you for this. That's not why I'm writing. I'm writing because your mother showed me the spreadsheet. I sat with it for hours, going through every entry, seeing the pattern of what you'd been doing for us. For me. 189,500. I knew you were helping. I knew you were generous. But I didn't know the extent. I didn't know what it was costing you. Or maybe I did know better, and I chose not to look too closely because it was easier to accept help than to acknowledge how much we'd come to depend on it. You called us an ATM, and you're right. That's exactly how we treated you. Not intentionally, or maybe intentionally but unconsciously, if that makes sense. You were always so capable, so together, so able to handle things. We started seeing you as a resource instead of a person. The Christmas dinner was the culmination of that too. Your mother suggested inviting you, and I said, "She won't come. She's too busy." Emma said, "She always says she'll try to come and then cancels." Marcus said, "Let's keep it small this year." And I said, "Okay." I said okay because somewhere along the way, I'd stopped thinking of you as someone who needed to be included and started thinking of you as someone who would handle things on her own. You were the strong one, the independent one, the one who didn't need us. It never occurred to me that you might want to be needed for something other than money. I don't know if this helps, but I need you to understand. The shop closing is not your fault. It's mine. I built a business model that wasn't sustainable. And then I patched the holes with your money instead of fixing the fundamental problems. You didn't create those problems. You just postponed the inevitable. Maybe the shop needed to close. Maybe I needed to fail at this so I could figure out what actually works. Your mother is a wreck. She blames herself completely. She keeps saying, "I posted that photo. I ruined everything." She's taken it down, deleted her Facebook, stopped talking to most of her friends. She's ashamed, Sarah. Deeply ashamed. Emma and Marcus are angry at you. But I think that's because anger is easier than admitting they were complicit. It's easier to call you cruel than to acknowledge that we all took advantage of your kindness. I'm not asking you to resume payments. I'm not asking you to come back and fix this. I'm not asking for anything except for you to know that I see what happened. I see what we did. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for treating you like a solution instead of a daughter. I'm sorry for letting you carry burdens that were mine to carry. I'm sorry for forgetting that distance is measured in more than miles, and that we created the gap between us by only reaching out when we needed something. I don't know if we can fix this. I don't even know if you want to try. But if you do, someday, when you're ready, I'll be here. Not waiting for money. Not waiting for you to save us. Just waiting to know you again. If you'll let me. I love you. I know I haven't shown it in ways that matter, but I do. Dad, I read the email 7 times. Each time I felt something different. Anger, relief, grief, vindication, doubt, gratitude, rage. The emotions cycled through me like weather, each one legitimate, each one contradicting the others. He was apologizing. That was good. But he was apologizing because of consequences, not because of understanding. Or was that fair? Maybe understanding only came through consequences. Maybe that's how growth worked. You didn't learn you'd been hurting someone until you felt the hurt reflected back. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I saved the email in a folder and closed my laptop. That night, I went out with coworkers for drinks. It was the first time I'd said yes to a social invitation in months, maybe years. I'd always been too tired, too stressed about money, too anxious about the next family emergency to fully engage with life outside my apartment and my obligations. But now, sitting in a crowded bar with people who knew me only as Sarah the marketing analyst, not Sarah the family ATM, I felt something loosen in my chest. These people didn't need anything from me except my company. The transaction was social, not financial. I bought a round of drinks not because someone had asked for help, but because I wanted to, because I could afford to, because generosity felt different when it was a choice, not an obligation. We talked about normal things, work drama, dating disasters, plans for the weekend. Someone complained about their mother and everyone laughed. And I realized with a start that I'd forgotten how to be casual about family. Every mention of parents in the past few years had carried the weight of obligation, of financial stress, of complicated resentment. "Sarah, you're quiet," my coworker Michelle said. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said, and realized I meant it. Just processing some stuff. Family stuff? She raised an eyebrow. She'd been trying to get me to open up for months, inviting me to these outings, gently probing about my life outside work. I nodded. "Want to talk about it?" And surprisingly, I did. I told them a condensed version, left out the dollar amounts, focused on the emotional beats, excluded from Christmas. Cancelled the payments, sent the email, cut contact. I expected judgment. I expected them to tell me I'd overreacted, that family was family, that I should forgive and move on. Instead, Michelle said, "Good for you." "What?" "Good for you," she repeated. "Setting boundaries with family is hard. Most people never do it. They just suffer through decades of being taken advantage of and call it love." "But I basically destroyed my father's business." "No," she said firmly. "He destroyed his own business by building it on a foundation of your money instead of a solid business model. You didn't do anything to him. You just stopped enabling him to avoid reality." The words settled into me like medicine. Bitter going down, but healing something I hadn't known was infected. The evening stretched on. We closed down the bar, stumbled out into the cold night, laughed at nothing and everything. I took a cab home, tipped the driver generously because I could, and fell into my new bed feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Light. Not happy, exactly. Not resolved. But lighter. As if I'd been carrying a backpack full of stones and had finally been given permission to set it down. Aunt Diane stayed for dinner. We ordered from an Italian place down the street. Expensive. The kind of meal I'd never allowed myself when I was sending money home. We talked about everything except my parents. Her job, my job, her daughter's upcoming wedding, the book she was reading, the show I'd been binge-watching. Normal conversation. Family conversation that wasn't about need or obligation or crisis. It felt radical. When she left, she hugged me at the door and said, "They'll either figure it out or they won't. But either way, you're going to be okay. More than okay." After she left, I sat by my window and thought about what she'd said. About how they'd asked her first. About how she'd said no. And somehow her no hadn't destroyed the family. Hadn't made her the villain. Hadn't resulted in emotional terrorism and accusations of mental instability. She'd set a boundary, and they'd been angry, but they'd eventually gotten over it. They'd found another source, me, and moved on. What did that say about the nature of their love? What did it say about family, about obligation, about the difference between support and enablement? I didn't have answers, but I was starting to understand the questions. That night, I finally responded to my father's email. Dad, thank you for your email. I've read it several times, and I appreciate the vulnerability it took to write it. I want to address a few things. First, I'm not happy that the shop closed. I never wanted to destroy anything you built. But I also can't take responsibility for the closure when the business model was unsustainable. Aunt Diane told me today that you'd asked her for money in 2018 before you came to me. She said, no. If a business requires continuous external funding to survive, it's not a business. It's a charity case. I'm sorry you lost something you loved, but I can't carry the guilt of that loss when the foundation was already crumbling. Second, I believe that you're sorry. I believe that you didn't consciously set out to take advantage of me, but intent doesn't erase impact. You didn't mean to treat me like an ATM, but you did. You didn't mean to make me feel disposable, but you did. And I need you to understand that I didn't mean to isn't the same as I won't do it again. Third, about forgiveness. I don't know yet. I'm not ready to say I forgive you, and I'm not ready to say I won't. I'm in the middle space, and I need you to be okay with me staying here for as long as I need to. Don't pressure me for resolution. Don't ask me to make this easier for you. Let me process this at my own pace. Fourth, about the future. If we're going to rebuild any kind of relationship, it needs to be built on honesty and equity. That means you don't ask me for money, ever. If you're in a genuine emergency, you can present the situation, and I'll decide if I want to help. But there are no more automatic yes responses. You include me in family events because you want me there, not because you feel obligated or guilty. You invest in knowing who I am beyond what I can provide. Ask about my life, my work, my interests. Treat me like a person, not a resource. You take responsibility for your financial situation without using me as a scapegoat or a safety net. If you can do these things, we can maybe find our way back to each other. If you can't, then we'll remain distant. And that will be sad. But it will also be okay. I've learned that I can survive on my own. I've learned that my worth isn't determined by my usefulness. I've learned that setting boundaries doesn't make me cruel. It makes me healthy. I love you too. I've always loved you. But love isn't enough if it's not accompanied by respect and reciprocity. I'm not waiting for you to save me, Don't wait for me to save you. Let's both figure out how to stand on our own. And maybe, eventually, we can figure out how to stand together, Sarah. I sent it before I could second-guess myself. Then I closed my laptop, made myself a cup of tea, and sat in the quiet of my apartment. The weeks that followed were strange. I kept expecting fallout, angry calls, desperate emails, manipulation disguised as concern. But there was nothing, just silence. A respectful, careful silence that felt like its own form of communication. I started therapy. It took 3 tries to find a therapist I clicked with, but when I did, it was revelatory. Dr. Chen was in her 50s, matter of fact, without being cold, compassionate without being indulgent. What you're describing is a form of financial abuse, she said during our fourth session. I'd been talking about the guilt, the feeling that I'd been too harsh, the nagging sense that I'd overreacted. Financial abuse, I repeated. When someone uses financial dependence or manipulation to control someone else's behavior. In this case, your family created a dynamic where your value was tied to your financial contributions. They may not have done it consciously, but the effect was the same. You learned that love was conditional on money. But they didn't force me to give them money. No, but they created an environment where refusing to give money would result in emotional consequences. Guilt, accusations of selfishness, implications that you were abandoning them. That's coercion, even if it's soft coercion. I sat with that for a while. So I was right to cut them off. You were right to set boundaries. Whether cut them off is the right phrase depends on what you want from this. Do you want no relationship, or do you want a different relationship? I don't know, I admitted. That's okay. You don't have to know yet. Boundaries aren't about permanent decisions. They're about protecting yourself while you figure out what you want. The sessions became a lifeline. Each week, I unpacked another layer of the dysfunction. The way I'd learned to conflate love with sacrifice. The way I'd been praised for being so responsible and so mature as a child, which trained me to believe my worth came from taking care of others. The way my siblings had been allowed to be children while I was expected to be a mini adult. It's classic parentification, Dr. Chen explained. You were given adult responsibilities and adult expectations before you were developmentally ready. It teaches children that their needs are secondary to others' needs. That's a hard lesson to unlearn. I'm 28 years old, I said. Shouldn't I be over this by now? Trauma doesn't have an expiration date, and financial enmeshment is trauma. You're grieving the family you thought you had while simultaneously discovering the family you actually have. That's heavy work. Be patient with yourself. I tried. Some days were better than others. I started filling my life with things that had nothing to do with my family. I joined a book club. I took a pottery class. I went on dates, nothing serious. Just practicing the art of connection without obligation. I traveled for the first time in years. A weekend trip to Portland, where I stayed in a nice hotel and ate at restaurants I'd only read about and didn't calculate the cost of everything I was spending. I realized, learning how to be myself. Not the good daughter, not the family ATM, not the responsible one. Just Sarah, a person with interests and desires and boundaries. It was harder than I expected. I kept catching myself about to check my phone for family crisis notifications. I kept having panic attacks about money, even though my bank account was healthier than it had been in years. I kept feeling phantom guilt, as if I'd internalized my family's voice, and it continued narrating my life even in their absence. But slowly, the voice got quieter, and in the quiet, I started to hear myself. 2 months after I sent my father the email, my mother requested to video call me through Facebook Messenger, one of the few platforms I hadn't completely locked down. I stared at the request for 10 minutes before accepting. Her face appeared on screen, older and smaller than I remembered. She was sitting in the living room, and I could see the familiar couch behind her. The wallpaper I'd grown up with, the family photos on the mantel, photos that included me, I noticed. I was still there, frozen in time, smiling from frames that seemed to mock the reality of my absence. "Hi, baby," she said, and her voice cracked. "Hi, Mom." We looked at each other across the digital distance. 300 miles compressed into a screen, and yet the gap felt wider than ever. "I'm not calling to ask for anything," she said quickly. I needed to see you, to see that you're okay." "I'm okay," I said. It was true. "How are you?" "We're managing." She attempted a smile. It didn't reach her eyes. "Your father got a job at the auto parts store. It's not what he wanted, but it's steady. I've been picking up extra shifts at the hospital. We're making it work." "That's good." "Sarah, She paused, gathering herself. "I've been going to therapy. Court-ordered, actually. After Dad's shop closed, I had a breakdown. I said some things to the landlord that I shouldn't have said. It got complicated, but the therapist is helping me see things I couldn't see before." "What things?" "That I've been living in denial about our financial situation for years. That I expected you to fix problems I created. That I mistook your help for you being okay, when you were actually drowning." She wiped her eyes. "The therapist asked me to write down every time I contacted you in the past year. I went through my phone. Sarah, do you know how many times I called you just to talk? Just to see how you were doing with no agenda? I waited. Twice. In an entire year, I called you twice without needing something. Every other call was a request or an emergency or a problem that needed money." Her voice broke. "What kind of mother does that? What kind of mother only calls her daughter when she needs something?" "Mom, no. I need to say this. I need you to hear it." She looked directly at the camera. "I failed you. Not just with the Christmas dinner, though that was terrible. I failed you by treating you like a solution instead of a person. I failed you by taking your generosity and mistaking it for infinite availability. I failed you by not protecting you from becoming the family's emergency fund. I felt tears building but held them back. Why didn't you protect me? Because it was easier not to. Because every time you said yes, it solved a problem I didn't know how to solve. Because I told myself you were fine, you were successful. You didn't need me the way your siblings did." She laughed bitterly. "Your siblings who I saw every week, who I talked to about normal things, who I invited to dinner without thinking twice about it. Why was I different?" "Because you didn't need me," she said. "Or that's what I told myself. But the truth is, I didn't want to need you the way I needed you. It was easier to keep you at arm's length, to treat you like an insurance policy, than to admit that I'd built a life I couldn't sustain, and my eldest daughter was the only thing keeping it from collapsing." The silence stretched between us. "I can't go back and change it," she continued. "I can't undo the years of taking you for granted. But I need you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, and I'm trying to build a life that doesn't require you to sacrifice yours." "Is Dad in therapy too?" I asked. She shook her head. "He says he doesn't need it. He's working through this in his own way. But Sarah, he's changed. He doesn't complain about money anymore. He doesn't blame you. He's quieter." more thoughtful. I think closing the shop broke something in him, but maybe it needed to break. What about Emma and Marcus? Her face tightened. Emma is still angry. She thinks you abandoned us in our time of need. Marcus is Marcus. He doesn't talk about it. But neither of them have asked me for money since this happened. Which is interesting, isn't it? The crisis that made you pull back made them step up. I'm glad they're helping. They should have been helping all along. Mum looked directly at me. Sarah, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I'd forgive me. But I want you to know that I'm working on being different. Not because I want you to start sending money again. God, no. But because you deserved a better mother than the one you got. And even though it's late, I want to try to be that person. I didn't know what to say. The apology sat in my chest, heavy and complicated. It was what I'd wanted. It was also too late and too much and somehow still not enough. I appreciate you telling me this, I said finally. Can I ask you something? She leaned forward. Are you happy? There in the city, in your life that doesn't include us? I thought about it, I really thought about it. I'm getting there, I said. I'm learning how to be happy. It's harder than I expected. But yeah, I'm getting there. She smiled. And this time it did reach her eyes, even though they were filled with tears. Good. That's good. You deserve to be happy, baby. You've always deserved that. Mum, can I ask you something? Anything. Why did you post that photo? The Christmas one? She flinched. I don't know. I wanted to show everyone we were okay, that we were still a family, even though everything was falling apart. It was stupid and thoughtless and... She paused. And I think part of me wanted you to see it. Wanted you to feel left out. Wanted you to... I don't know. Care? Notice? Reach out? That's a pretty terrible way to get someone to reach out. I know. I'm sorry. I deleted my Facebook entirely. I couldn't stand looking at it, knowing what it did to you. We talked for another 20 minutes. Not about money or problems or the past. Just small things. Her job. My pottery class. The weather. The neighbor's new dog. It felt strange and tentative, like learning a new language. But it also felt like something. When we hung up, I sat in the silence of my apartment for a long time. Dr. Chen had warned me about this. Reconciliation isn't linear, she'd said. Your family might apologize. They might seem to change. That doesn't mean you have to go back to how things were. You can accept their apology and still maintain your boundaries. You can love them and still protect yourself. I opened my journal, a practice Dr. Chen had encouraged, and wrote. Mom called. She apologized. It felt real. But I'm not ready to trust it yet. Maybe I never will be. And that's okay. I don't owe anyone forgiveness on their timeline. I don't owe anyone a return to the old normal. I can appreciate the apology and still keep my distance. Both things can be true. I read it back and felt something settle in my chest. Growth wasn't about making everything okay again. Growth was about accepting that some things would never be okay, and learning to live fully anyway. Spring came slowly to the city. The snow melted into slush, which melted into rain. which eventually gave way to tentative sunshine, and the first brave crocuses pushing through the soil in the park near my apartment. I'd been in therapy for 3 months. I'd been no contact with my siblings for the same amount of time. I'd been low contact with my parents. Occasional texts. One video call every few weeks. Careful conversations that avoided both money and emotional depth. It wasn't ideal, but it was sustainable. Dr. Chen called it protective distance. I called it survival. Then, in mid-April, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email, not a text, but an actual physical letter. Handwritten, with a return address I recognized. My father's handwriting. I set it on my counter, stared at it for 2 days before opening it. When I finally did, late at night with a glass of wine for courage, I found 3 pages of careful script and a check. The check was for $5,000. I stared at it, confused, and then started reading the letter. Dear Sarah, this is not payment for what we owe you. $5,000 doesn't begin to cover the $189,000 you gave us over the years. This is symbolic. I've been working at the auto parts store for 3 months now. It's humbling work. I'm doing in my 50s what I did in my 20s, starting over from scratch. But it's honest work, and it's steady, and for the first time in 10 years, I'm not lying awake at night wondering how I'll make payroll or cover rent. Your mother and I have cut our expenses by more than half. No more eating out, no more unnecessary purchases, no more pretending we can afford a lifestyle we can't sustain. We sold your mother's car and share mine now. We cancelled cable and streaming services and the gym memberships we never used. We shop at discount grocery stores and use coupons and plan meals like we're running a business. Because in a way, we're running the business of our own lives, which we should have been doing all along. Every month, I've been setting aside 10% of my paycheck. It's not much. I make about $300 a month at the store, so 10 is $320. But over the past few months, I've saved $1,600. Your mother did the same with her nursing shifts. She makes a bit more than me, so her tent has added up to about $2,400. Together, that's $4,000. I added another $1,000 from selling some equipment I'd been storing in Robert's garage. That makes $5,000. This is not repayment. This is a gesture, a promise, a commitment to doing better. I'm not asking you to tear up this check and tell me to keep it. I'm asking you to cash it and know that more will follow. Not because I'm trying to buy back your affection, but because I need to prove to myself and to you that I can stand on my own, that I can give instead of always taking. I'm in therapy now, court mandated like your mother's, though for different reasons. I got into an altercation with the shop landlord. I'm not proud of it. I'm dealing with it. The therapist has helped me see that the shop wasn't just a business. It was my identity. When it failed, I felt like I failed, like I was worthless. But I'm learning that what I do isn't who I am, that starting over isn't the same as giving up, that asking for help is different than expecting to be rescued. I'm also learning that I was a bad father to you, not in the obvious ways. I never hit you, never neglected you, never told you I didn't love you, but in the subtle ways that might be worse. I taught you that your value came from what you could provide. I taught you that love was something you had to earn through sacrifice. I taught you that your needs were less important than everyone else's. These are terrible lessons. And I'm sorry I was the one who taught them to you. I don't know if we can fix this. I don't know if you'll ever trust me again, or if you should. But I need you to know that I'm trying. Not trying to go back to how things were. That would be a disaster. Trying to build something new, something healthier, something where you're my daughter, not my safety net. Cash the check. Put it toward your savings or your retirement or that trip you've always wanted to take. Use it as proof that change is possible, even if it's slow, even if it's imperfect. I love you. I'm sorry. I'm trying. Dad, I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Then I looked at the check. $5,000. A fraction of what they owed, but somehow more valuable than any amount could be, because it represented something money couldn't buy. Effort, change. A parent trying to become someone their child could trust again. I took a photo of the check and texted it to the Chen with the message. Is this real or is this manipulation? Her response came quickly. Could be both or neither. What matters is how it makes you feel and whether you want to engage with it. I don't know how I feel, I typed back. That's okay. You don't have to decide right now. Sit with it. See what emerges. I sat with it. For days. For a week. I didn't cash the check immediately. I set it on my refrigerator with a magnet and looked at it every day, waiting for my feelings to crystallize into something clear. They never did. What I felt was complicated. Gratitude and skepticism, hope and fear, love and residual anger. All of it swirled together, refusing to separate into neat categories of forgiveness or rejection. Finally, on a Thursday evening, I made a decision. I deposited the check. Not because I needed the money. My savings account was healthy now, padded by 3 months of not sending money home. But because refusing it felt like punishment, and I didn't want to punish him for trying. Then I wrote my own letter. Dad, thank you for the check. I deposited it, not because I need it, but because I respect what it represents. You're right that 5,000 doesn't cover what I gave you, but I'm not keeping a ledger anymore. That spreadsheet I made was for me, to help me understand what had happened. It wasn't a bill. I don't expect repayment, and I don't want our relationship to be about debt. I'm glad you're in therapy. I'm in therapy too. It helps. Dr. Chen says I have to grieve the family I thought I had while learning to accept the family I actually have. It's hard work, but I think it's working. I appreciate your apology. I believe you're trying. But I need you to understand that trying isn't the same as arrival. You can be sorry and still hurt me. You can be changing and still need boundaries. Those things aren't contradictions. Here's what I need from you moving forward. 1. Keep going to therapy. Do the work. Not for me, for you. 2. Don't ask me for money. If you send me money, like you did with this check, that's your choice. But I'm not opening the door to requests. That door is closed, maybe permanently. 3. Invite me to family things directly. Not through Ma or Emma or a group text. Call me or email me personally and ask if I'd like to come. Give me real notice. Treat me like you actually want me there, not like you're checking a box. 4. Tell me about your life. Ask about mine. Build a relationship that isn't transactional. 5. Accept that I'm going to maintain distance for a while. Maybe a long while. That's not punishment. It's protection. I'm learning how to be healthy, and part of that is not rushing back into dynamics that hurt me. If you can do these things, we can rebuild slowly, carefully, with no guarantee of getting back to where we were, because where we were wasn't actually good for either of us. I love you. I'm also angry at you. Both of those things are true, and I need you to be okay with that. Thank you for trying. Keep trying. I'll do the same. Sarah, I mailed it the next day. Then I did something I'd been putting off for months. I called my sister. She answered on the third ring, her voice wary. Sarah? Hi, Emma. Silence. I'm not calling to fight, I said. I'm calling because we're sisters and I miss you. And I want to see if there's anything worth salvaging here. You want to salvage our relationship? Her voice was sharp. After what you did. After what I did, yes. And after what you did. What did I do? You excluded me from Christmas. You dismissed my feelings as being dramatic. You sent me messages calling me cruel and vindictive when I set boundaries. You made me the villain for stopping something that was hurting me. You nearly destroyed Mom and Dad's lives. No, I said calmly. I stopped propping up a lifestyle they couldn't afford. They destroyed their own lives by building on a foundation that wasn't sustainable. I was just the temporary fix that made it easier to avoid reality. You're so self-righteous now. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just finally advocating for myself after years of putting everyone else first. Silence again. Then, Mom told me about therapy, about the things she realized. And I don't know. I'm not ready to say you were right. But I'm not sure you were wrong either. It's confusing. It is confusing, I agreed. Emma, I don't need you to admit I was right. I need you to admit that I was hurt. That excluding me hurt. That treating me like an ATM hurt. Can you do that? Long pause. Yeah, she said finally, her voice small. I can admit that. I didn't think about it at the time, but yeah, we hurt you. Thank you. Are you going to start sending money again? No. Good. The word surprised me. I mean, not good that Mom and Dad are struggling, but good that you stopped. It was too much, Sarah. We all knew it was too much, but it was easier to let you do it than to figure out our own shit. Why didn't you say anything? Because I'm selfish. Because I liked having a sister who could bail me out when I needed it. Because it was comfortable, and questioning it would have been uncomfortable. She laughed bitterly. God, we really did treat you like an ATM, didn't we? Yeah, you did. I'm sorry. The apology hung in the air, tentative and fragile. Thank you, I said. That means something. Can we... I don't know. Can we try again? Differently? Maybe. If you're willing to put in the work. What work? Being my sister, not my dependent. Calling me sometimes just to talk, including me in things. Treating me like I matter beyond what I can provide. I can try to do that. Then let's try. We talked for another hour. Not about money or Christmas or the past. About her work, my pottery class, her daughter's upcoming birthday, the book I was reading. Small things. Sister things. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not certainty. Not trust. Just hope. The faintest possibility that maybe, with enough work and enough honesty and enough boundaries, we could build something worth having. Summer arrived with a vengeance. The city baked in humid heat, the kind that made the air shimmer and turned my apartment into a sauna despite the best efforts of my second-hand air conditioner. I'd been in therapy for 6 months. I'd been maintaining careful contact with my parents. Texts every few weeks. One phone call a month. Boundaries firmly in place. Emma and I had spoken 3 more times. Awkward conversations that were slowly becoming less awkward. Marcus had sent me one text. "I'm sorry for being a dick. I get it now." I'd responded, "Thanks. Let's talk soon." We hadn't talked, but the door was open. Then, in late July, I got an email from my mother. Subject line, "Family Gathering, August 15th. Dear Sarah, I'm writing to invite you to a family dinner at our house on August 15th at 5 p.m. This is a proper invitation with real notice because you deserve that. This isn't a holiday dinner or a special occasion. It's just dinner. Just family, trying to figure out how to be family again. Emma and Marcus will be there. Your father will be there. I'll be there. We'd like you to be there too, if you're willing. I understand if you're not ready. I understand if the answer is no. But I wanted to ask directly, personally, with enough time for you to think about it and plan for it if you decide to come. There will be no requests for money, no crisis discussions, no drama. Just food and conversation and an attempt at being normal. If you need to bring a friend for support, you're welcome too. If you need to leave early, that's okay. If you need to say no entirely, I understand. But I hope you'll say yes. Love, Mom. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I forwarded it to Dr. Chen with the note. Help. What do I do? Her response. What do you want to do? I don't know. I'm scared. Scared of what? Scared they'll revert to old patterns. Scared I'll fall back into being the good daughter. Scared I'll go and it'll hurt. Scared I won't go and I'll regret it. All valid fears. Here's a question. If you went, what would you need to make it feel safe? I thought about it. An exit strategy. Someone to go with me. Clear boundaries about what I will and won't discuss. Those are all reasonable things to request. Do you want to go? I sat with the question. Really sat with it. Did I want to go? Part of me did. Part of me missed them. Missed the idea of family. Missed the possibility of connection without transaction. Part of me didn't. Part of me was terrified of walking back into that house and losing all the progress I'd made. Both parts were valid. I think I want to try, I finally typed. But I need it to be on my terms. Then make that clear. You're allowed to have conditions. I called my mother. She answered immediately, breathless, hopeful. Sarah? I got your email. And? I'll come. But I need some things. Anything. What do you need? I'm bringing a friend. Her name is Michelle. You'll be nice to her. Of course. We'll arrive at 5 and leave by 8. No requests for us to stay longer. Okay. No discussions about money. No mentions of past debts or future needs. If anyone brings up finances, I'm leaving. Understood. No comments about my weight, my relationship status, my job, or my life choices. No unsolicited advice. No passive-aggressive remarks about the city, or my apartment, or how long it's been since I visited. Sarah, I promise, this is about rebuilding, not tearing down. Mom, I need you to understand. I'm not the same person I was before. I'm not going to go back to being that person. If you're inviting me hoping I'll magically become the old Sarah, this won't work. I'm not hoping for the old Sarah, she said quietly. I'm hoping to meet the new one. Something in my chest loosened. Okay, then I'll come. Thank you. Her voice cracked. Thank you for giving us a chance. After we hung up, I texted Michelle. Want to go to an awkward family dinner in 3 weeks? I'll owe you forever. Her response? Finally. I thought you'd never ask. I'll bring wine. The 3 weeks passed in a blur of anxiety and preparation. Dr. Chen and I spent 2 sessions role-playing difficult conversations. Michelle and I established hand signals. If I tugged my ear, it meant I needed her to create a distraction so I could escape. If I squeezed her hand twice, it meant things were going okay. The night before, I barely slept. I lay in my new bed, in my carefully built apartment, and wondered if I was making a terrible mistake. But in the morning, I got up, got dressed, and got in Michelle's car. We drove in companionable silence for the first hour. Then Michelle said, "You know you can turn around at any point, right? We can drive 300 miles and turn around in their driveway if you need to." I know. And if they're assholes, I'm fully prepared to be devastatingly polite while making them feel terrible about themselves. I laughed. Thank you. That's what friends are for. We arrived at 4:58 p.m. I sat in the car, staring at the house I'd grown up in, feeling like I was about to walk into enemy territory, or sacred ground, or maybe both. Ready? Michelle asked. No, but let's go anyway. We walked up the path together. Before I could knock, the door opened. My mother stood there, older and smaller than I remembered, wearing an apron and a nervous smile. "Hi, baby," she said. "Hi, Mom." We looked at each other across the threshold. Then she opened her arms, tentative, asking permission. I stepped into the hug. She felt fragile. She smelled like the lavender soap she'd always used. She held me like I was precious and breakable. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. "Thank you for inviting me," I whispered back. When we separated, I introduced Michelle, who was gracious and charming in that way that made everyone feel instantly at ease. Inside, the house looked different. Smaller, maybe, or perhaps I'd just gotten used to my city apartment's dimensions. But also simpler. The excess was gone. The decorative items, the unnecessary furniture, the clutter of a lifestyle funded by credit and supplemental income. What remained looked more honest, sparse, but honest. Dad emerged from the kitchen wearing a button-down shirt I didn't recognize. He looked older too, grayer, more tired, but also somehow more present, like he'd traded the exhaustion of ambition for the steadiness of acceptance. "Sarah?" He didn't try to hug me, which I appreciated. "I'm glad you're here. Thanks for having me. And you must be Michelle." "That's me. Thank you for the invitation." Emma appeared next, carrying her daughter, My niece, who I'd only met twice, who was now almost 3 years old, and staring at me with huge, curious eyes. "Hi," Emma said. Awkward, genuine. "Hi." We didn't hug. We nodded. It was enough. Marcus was already at the table, standing when we entered. "Hey, Sarah." "Hey." And then we were all there in the dining room, around the table that had always been the center of family life. The table where I hadn't been welcome 8 months ago. The table that now had a place set for me, with the good china, the embroidered tablecloth, the careful presentation of a family trying very hard to do better. Dinner was excruciating and wonderful in equal measure. Excruciating because every conversation felt loaded. Every silence felt significant. Every laugh felt tentative. Wonderful because we were trying, all of us. Trying to be normal. Trying to be kind. Trying to find our way back to some version of family that didn't require anyone to sacrifice themselves. We talked about safe things. Michelle's job. Emma's daughter. Marcus's new apartment. Mum's nursing shift drama. Dad's co-worker who collected vintage lunchboxes. No one mentioned money. No one asked when I'd visit again. No one made passive-aggressive comments or loaded observations. It was, by any objective measure, a normal family dinner, which was somehow revolutionary. At 7:45, I caught Michelle's eye. She nodded slightly. "We should get going," I said. "We've got a long drive." "Of course," Mom said, standing immediately. No pressure to stay, no guilt about leaving, just acceptance. At the door, she hugged me again. "This was good," she said. "Wasn't it? It was good." "Yeah," I said, surprised to find I meant it. "It was good. Can we do it again? In a few months, maybe?" "Maybe. Let's take it slow. Slow is good. Slow is fine." She squeezed my hands. "I love you, Sarah. The real you. The you that has boundaries. The you that stands up for herself. I'm proud of who you've become, even though I wish I'd helped you become her instead of forcing you to become her in spite of me." I didn't have words for that, so I just hugged her again. Dad shook my hand, formal and respectful. "Drive safe." "I will." Emma walked us to the car. "Thanks for coming," she said. "I know it was hard. Thanks for being, I don't know, present? I'm trying. We're all trying." She smiled. "It's weird, right? How hard it is to just be normal." "So weird." "Text me when you get home." "Yeah, I will." Michelle and I drove away as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. We were silent for the first 20 miles. Then Michelle said, "So?" "So?" I repeated. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Okay. Not healed. Not fixed, but okay. That's good. Yeah, it is. Are you going back? I don't know, maybe. Someday. I looked out the window at the darkening landscape. But it doesn't have to be soon. And it doesn't have to be the same as before. I can love them and still protect myself. Both things can be true. Both things can be true, Michelle repeated, like a benediction. We drove through the night, back toward the city, back toward my life. The life I'd built when I finally stopped funding someone else's. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was driving towards something instead of away from something. It felt like progress. Epilogue. 1 year later, I'm sitting in my apartment, not the cramped one from a year ago, but a new one, slightly bigger, with better light and a dishwasher that actually works. I'm drinking coffee from my French press, eating breakfast at my real kitchen table, planning my day. My savings account has 47,000 in it. My retirement fund is fully funded. I have health insurance and dental insurance, and a therapist I see every other week. Not because I'm in crisis, but because maintenance matters. I went on vacation last month, a real vacation, 10 days in Greece, staying in nice hotels, eating at restaurants, buying souvenirs without calculating the cost. Michelle came with me. We drank wine on balconies overlooking the Aegean Sea and talked about everything and nothing. I have a life, a real life, the kind I couldn't have imagined a year ago. My family is still there, 300 miles away. We talk more now than we did when I was funding their existence. Not a lot, maybe once a week, sometimes less. But the conversations are real. They ask about my life. I tell them. I ask about theirs. They tell me. There have been no requests for money in 8 months. Not one. Dad sent me another check 2 months ago, $3,000 this time. I deposited it and sent him a thank you text. We didn't discuss it beyond that. The debt doesn't define us anymore. Mom and I have had 3 video calls where we just talked. About books we're reading, shows we're watching, the small details of daily life. It's not the deep mother-daughter connection I once craved. But it's honest, and honest might be better than deep. Emma calls me sometimes to ask for advice. Not money advice, but sister advice. About parenting, about marriage, about how to set boundaries with our parents without feeling guilty. I'm still learning that myself, but I share what I know. Marcus and I are rebuilding slowly. He apologized properly last month, a real apology, with acknowledgement and understanding and no excuses. We're not close, but we're talking. That's something. I went home for Christmas. A real invitation, 2 months in advance with explicit understanding that I'd bring Michelle and leave on my own schedule. It was better than the August dinner. Not perfect, but better. Progress. No one asked me for money. No one made passive-aggressive comments about my life. No one treated me like I was obligated to save them. They treated me like I was Sarah. Just Sarah. A person, not a resource. It felt revolutionary. Dr. Chen says I've done the work, that I've set boundaries and maintained them, that I've protected myself while remaining open to connection, that I've learned the hardest lesson. You can love people and still not let them hurt you. She's right, but she's also said something else, something I keep coming back to. Healing isn't about going back to who you were before. It's about becoming someone new, someone who knows their worth, someone who won't forget it again. I am someone new. The old Sarah would have read this story and felt guilty, would have seen the suffering she caused and immediately tried to fix it, tried to make it better, tried to be the good daughter again. The new Sarah understands something more complicated, that sometimes causing pain is necessary. That sometimes the kindest thing you can do for people you love is refuse to enable them. That setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's clarity. I still feel guilty sometimes. Late at night, when I can't sleep, I think about my father losing his shop, my mother sitting in the dark when the power was shut off. the panic and fear and chaos I created by simply stopping. But then I remember the spreadsheet. $189,500. 7 years of my life converted into currency and transferred home while I ate ramen and skipped doctor's appointments and told myself this was what family meant. I remember the Christmas photo, my empty seat, my mother's voice. You live too far away, honey. I remember learning that I was only valuable for what I could provide. And the guilt transforms into something else. Not pride exactly, but a quiet certainty that I made the right choice, even if it was the hard choice, even if it hurt everyone involved. Last week, I got a letter from Aunt Diane. She'd heard from my mother about the Christmas visit, about the progress we're making. She wrote, "I'm proud of you for holding firm. I know it's been painful. I know you've questioned yourself 1,000 times. But you taught your family something essential. That love requires reciprocity. That relationships require respect. That you can't buy connection with sacrifice. You also taught yourself something. That you're worthy of a life that's yours. That your needs matter. That saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you human. Your family is better for what you did, even if they'll never fully admit it. Your father is working honestly. Your mother is facing reality. Your siblings are learning to stand on their own. These are gifts you gave them by refusing to be their crutch. But more importantly, you're better. And that matters most. I cried when I read it. Not sad tears exactly. Something more complex. Grief for what was lost. Gratitude for what was found. Relief that someone understood. There's no perfect ending to this story. No moment where everything clicks into place and everyone learns their lesson and we all live happily ever after. Real life is messier than that. My family is still rebuilding their finances. It's been a year, and they're still struggling sometimes. But they're struggling honestly now, facing reality, instead of patching it with my money. My father sold their house. They moved into something smaller, more affordable. He cried when he told me. Said it felt like failure. I told him it wasn't failure. It was right-sizing. It was living within your means. It was the responsible thing to do. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I wish I'd learned this lesson 30 years ago, instead of forcing you to teach it to me now. Me too, I said, but better late than never. My mother has started volunteering at a financial literacy nonprofit. She teaches people how to budget, how to plan, how to avoid the mistakes she made. She says it's her way of making amends, not to me specifically, but to the universe generally. Emma paid off her medical debt. It took her 9 months, but she did it herself, without asking me for help. She called me when she made the final payment, crying with relief and pride. I did it, she said. I actually did it. I knew you could, I told her. Did you? Because I didn't. I thought I needed you to survive. Turns out I'm more capable than I thought. Turns out, I agreed. Marcus got a promotion at work. He makes enough now to support himself comfortably. He told me last month that watching what happened with our parents, watching them scramble when my support vanished, scared him straight. I never want to be that dependent on someone else, he said. Never want to build a life I can't sustain on my own. Good, I said. That's good. As for me, I'm still in therapy. I'm still building my life. piece by careful piece. I'm still learning how to take up space without apologizing for it. How to spend money on myself without guilt. How to maintain boundaries without constant fear that I'm being too harsh. I started dating someone. His name is David. He's a teacher, kind and funny, and emotionally available in ways I'm still learning to trust. He knows the whole story. I told him on our 4th date, expecting him to run. Instead, he said, "That must have been incredibly hard. How are you doing now?" Not "you should forgive them," or "family is family," or "don't you think you were too extreme?" Just, "How are you doing now?" I'm still figuring out how to answer that question. Some days I'm doing great. Some days I'm drowning in doubt. Most days I'm somewhere in between, muddling through, trying to be okay with the fact that healing isn't linear, and peace isn't permanent, and growth requires constant vigilance. But I'm here, I'm present in my own life. I'm no longer funding someone else's existence at the expense of my own. And that, I'm learning, is enough. There's a question that haunts me sometimes, late at night when the city is quiet and I'm alone with my thoughts. What if I'd never seen that Christmas photo? What if they'd been more careful, more considerate, more aware of how it would look to exclude me and then post about it publicly? Would I have ever realized what was happening? Would I have just kept sending money, kept sacrificing, kept being the good daughter until there was nothing left of me? I think I would have. And that's the scariest part. Not that they took advantage of me, not that they excluded me, but that I might have let them do it forever if they'd just been a little more subtle about it. The Christmas photo wasn't the cause of my awakening. It was just the evidence I couldn't ignore anymore. Sometimes I think I should thank whoever hosted it. Emma, probably, or my mother. Whoever decided that documenting their perfect family dinner was more important than protecting my feelings. They accidentally gave me the truth I needed. The proof that I'd been living in denial. That my family's love was conditional. That I was valuable only for what I provided. It was a cruel gift, but it was a gift nonetheless. Last month, I was cleaning out my closet and found a box I'd forgotten about. Inside were cards from my family. Birthday cards, Christmas cards, thank you cards from over the years. I sat on my bedroom floor and read through them. The messages were all the same. Thanks for being you. You're the best daughter anyone could ask for. We don't know what we'd do without you. You're always there when we need you. We're so grateful for everything you do. They'd told me they loved me. Over and over they'd said it, but love that only flows in one direction isn't love. It's dependency. Love that requires sacrifice isn't love. It's transaction. Love that excludes you from the family table while taking your money isn't love. It's exploitation, even if it's unconscious, even if no one meant any harm. I took the cards out to my building's recycling bin. All of them, years of gratitude that meant nothing, because it was never backed by actual respect or reciprocity or inclusion. Then I went back upstairs and made myself dinner. A nice dinner, with fresh ingredients from the farmer's market, cooked in my good cookware, eaten at my real table, while watching the sunset through my window. I didn't feel guilty about the money I spent on groceries. I didn't calculate what I could have sent home instead. I didn't apologize to myself for taking up space in my own life. I just lived. And that, I'm realizing, is the whole point. If you've read this far, you might be waiting for the moral. the tidy conclusion, the lesson wrapped up with a bow. Here it is. You are not an ATM. You are not a solution to someone else's problems. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Love should be reciprocal. Family should be mutual. Support should flow in multiple directions, not just from you to everyone else. If you're the only one sacrificing, the only one compromising, the only one bending, that's not a relationship. That's servitude with a prettier name. Setting boundaries doesn't make you cruel. It makes you honest. Saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sustainable. Protecting yourself doesn't make you heartless. It makes you healthy. And if the people in your life only value you for what you can give them, if they only call when they need something, if they only include you when it's convenient, they don't actually love you. They love what you do for them. There's a difference. Learn the difference. Honor the difference. Build a life around the difference. You deserve to be loved for who you are, not what you provide. You deserve to be included because your presence matters, not because your absence would be inconvenient. You deserve to have boundaries that are respected without having to justify them. You deserve to invest in yourself without guilt. You deserve a life that's yours, not borrowed, not compromised, not half-lived, while you fund someone else's existence. Yours. It will be hard to claim that life. People will call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of abandoning them in their time of need, conveniently forgetting that their time of need has lasted years and might last forever if you don't step back. Let them be angry. Let them struggle. Let them figure out how to stand on their own. It's not your job to hold up everyone else. It's your job to stand firm in your own life and see who's willing to stand beside you, not on top of you. Some people will rise to the occasion. They'll apologize. They'll grow. They'll learn to value you properly. Some won't. They'll blame you forever, casting you as the villain in their story, because it's easier than admitting they were wrong. Both outcomes are okay. What's not okay is sacrificing yourself indefinitely, hoping that eventually someone will notice, someone will appreciate it. Someone will love you enough without you having to buy that love. They won't. Or if they do, it will be too late. You'll already be empty. I'm writing this from my apartment. My beautiful, expensive, carefully chosen apartment that I can now afford, because I'm not funding anyone else's life. The sun is setting. The city is golden in the evening light. I have plans tonight. Dinner with Michelle. Maybe drinks after. Maybe just a walk through the park. My phone is on the counter. It hasn't rung with a family emergency in months. My bank account is healthy. My retirement is funded. My life is mine. And I'm happy. Not constantly, not perfectly, not without complications or doubts or moments of guilt that still hit me like waves. But happy. Actually, genuinely, sustainably happy. The kind of happiness that comes from living authentically. From setting boundaries and keeping them. From being loved for who you are instead of what you provide. It's a quiet happiness. Not dramatic or Instagram-worthy, or easy to explain to people who haven't been where I have been. But it's real. And it's mine. And I'm never giving it away again. If you're reading this and seeing yourself in my story, if you're the one who always helps, who always gives, who always sacrifices while everyone else just takes, please hear me. You can stop. You're allowed to stop. Stopping doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a person who finally understands that you matter too. It will be hard. It will feel cruel. People will be angry. There will be consequences. But there are also consequences to continuing. To slowly erasing yourself in service of people who've forgotten to see you as anything other than a resource. Choose the consequences that lead to life, not the ones that lead to slow death. Choose yourself, not instead of others, alongside others, in balance with others. Choose to be someone's daughter, not their ATM, someone's sister, not their safety net, someone's family, not their solution. Choose to be a person, full and complete, valuable for your existence, not just your contributions. Choose to be seen. And if they can't see you, if they refuse to see you, then walk away. Build a life where you're visible. Find people who see you without you having to sacrifice yourself to earn their attention. Create a world where your presence is the gift, not your presence. It's possible. I'm living proof. I was the good daughter. The responsible one. The one who always helped, who always gave, who always said yes, until I said no. And my life began. Yours can too.